Hi, and welcome back to 49 Unbeaten, the official Arsenal Vavel podcast. I'm joined today by Joel. How you doing, man?
Yeah, mate, I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for having me on, man. How about yourself? How are you keeping?
Yeah, I'm keeping well, thanks. It's been a while. I mean, I think it must have been about maybe near a year ago that you last made your appearance on the podcast with Jack, I remember, for a preview for a game, something like that.
Yeah, honestly, it's literally I call it my once a season special. Do you know what I mean? I turned on, came on the pod for the season, babbled a bit about Arsenal and disappeared into the night. So I'm back and hopefully here to stay for the foreseeable future.
100%. Well, appreciate you coming on today, mate. Obviously, one of the Arsenal Vavel writers. You've been doing a bit of writing here and there for us. Anything we can expect from you soon, or just kind of ticking along nice?
Well, I'm gonna have to sort of think of a few ideas, but I think probably something about the away games coming up, maybe at Old Trafford and
Big game, that.
Goodison and something like that. So yeah, probably gotta keep the ideas ticking over, and something will be out soon enough.
Nice one, man. Nice one. So obviously, Liverpool away, it was a humbling defeat, 4-0. I remember myself feeling pretty optimistic up until the second half whistle blew for kickoff. And then it all just kind of went downhill from there. What's your takeaway from that Liverpool result?
Well, I feel like we shouldn't be too downhearted by the fact that you're probably facing one of the best teams that have come out of Liverpool for a very long time, if that makes any sense. I think Klopp has got that team at a stage where they can perform to near enough their optimum as to how they're playing now.
Yeah.
And we're a very, very young team in its infancy, sort of coming together and really going to a ground like Anfield. So the result, again, the scoreline is a bit hard and a bit hard to take, but I reckon performance-wise, there's a lot of things to sort of tweak, but it's not all doom and gloom because sometimes we go to Anfield or even, for example, we went to the Etihad earlier this year. It was very, very tough to take. Not only the result, but the performance was sort of very slack. Whereas I felt like to the final whistle, we kept going, but we just didn't have enough quality to match Liverpool.
Where did it go wrong for Arsenal? Obviously, there's probably a few things you can pick apart from it, but for you, where did it go wrong?
I think it's such a cliche to say the first goal, because I feel like it really did not take the wind out of Arsenal's sails, but because it was so close to half time, if we had got to half time level in the game, it probably tempers our approach as to sort of how we approach the second half. We can sort of maybe get a platform to maybe sort of kick on or try to sort of stage attacks here and there, maybe sort of have a bit more belief in the squad. But I think, especially at Anfield, a raucous Anfield, that had just been sort of spurred on by that sort of fracas between Klopp and Arteta. I think that it was just timing that the goal came not long after that, and then from there, I think that Liverpool and just got that momentum. And you know how Anfield is on a packed night like that. It's just sort of it takes. It's just we know the script as Arsenal fans. We know what happens in Anfield are rocking and we're on the back foot. It never ends well, really.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen some of the best, the very best in Europe go there and crumble. I think Arteta actually said that after in his press conference, but it's a very young squad, like the youngest in the Premier League, and there will be better days ahead for Arsenal for sure. But how important is it that Arsenal bounce back this weekend, Saturday, when Newcastle visit Emirates Stadium?
Essential, really. To end that weekend still in fifth spot is amazing after getting thumped 4-0 at Anfield. So you have a chance to put a marker down against the bottom side of the league, which won't be easy because they have their own new manager. They will look for their own balance with the expectations heightened by the new regime coming in. But if we get 3 points, especially ahead of two tough fixtures at Old Trafford and Goodison, it'll put us in very good footing. So I reckon the aim of the game for this weekend to stay fifth, get the 3 points, and hopefully build upon what will be a crucial next month in December.
There's a tough fixture as well. West Ham coming up just after. I think it's towards the mid to end of December as well. So it's not an easy month for Arsenal, and we know that this club does dictate how some things go in our lives, and our Christmas could very much be dependent on. Well, a good Christmas could be dependent on how well Arsenal play over the Christmas period. But yeah, just on the team that played at Anfield, Do you feel like Arteta made some mistakes picking some of those players like Nuno Tavares over Kieran Tierney, Albert Sambi Lokonga, Oza, Ainsley Maitland-Niles? You got man of the match. Do you feel like that was potentially the wrong move, or do you not change the winning team in your opinion?
I'll be curious to sort of see what you think, but I think on my side, I think the saying goes, never change a winning formula. And I reckon all our players performed so admirably to that point that you'd want to sort of see that they'd be ready or be at least prepared for a test at Anfield. I reckon he put out the best thing he could have done, Arteta. I don't reckon I would have changed Tierney for Tavares. I would have felt that's a bit harsh. If Tierney comes in, it puts a bit added pressure on him coming back into the team at Anfield. And let's say if Tierney had a bad game, in the long run, I think Arsenal fans might be at the test that Tierney might be better to have in the squad than Tavares. So let's say Tierney has a bad game and we play Tavares long term.
Yeah,
maybe we lose something out long term because we put Tierney in a bit sooner than he should have done. So that's one way of thinking it. I think one thing I didn't know is that Thomas Partey came in to the team, and he'd sort of been a bit had his fitness problems over the international break. So to come in at Anfield as well, he has to be fit and firing. I don't think he was completely. No. I don't think he moved the ball as well as he should have done. I reckon midfielders always a bit tough, but again, anyone can look bad at Anfield. So I call it the Anfield tax. So I reckon Newcastle will be the proper examination of sort of where we're at and where this team is at, really.
Yeah, I think we learned a lot as well from Anfield as to this young defence. And I said before the game, I'm excited to see how this young defence cope with Anfield playing against the best attackers in the world. And ultimately, and at the end of the day, we learned that, well, they're not quite up to the levels that some people might have been bigging them up to. I think it's a very good young defence, but time will come, learning curves. And I think, well, you asked for what I thought on it, but to be honest, I feel like I agree with you. I don't think Arteta should change the winning team, because then if we lost again, people would saying, oh, he changed the winning team. So could have pinpointed that. However, I don't know. I feel like potentially you might bring Kieran Tierney back in for the next game against Newcastle. You might bring Ainsley Maitland-Niles in. You might give Bukayo Saka a rest. Just small kind of things like this, maybe you start to change around in the team. Do you agree with that at all? Do you think you keep Tavares and Lokonga in and give them a chance to bounce back themselves after that Liverpool result? Or do you think that you do rotate the squad now when the opposition isn't quite as a high level?
I think everyone's going to have their opinion, but it's the ball falls at Mikel Arteta's feet as to sort of who he feels is the best team to beat Newcastle. Personally, I'll go in for Tierney now. If you're going to see if he's fit and ready to go for these next 2 big games or 3 big games that you alluded to, because I know you mentioned that we have West Ham on the horizon as well. I think you put him in now. You see if he's got up to sort of the level that he needs to sort of do performance-wise, and you're given that a home game against Newcastle to get him going. I think Lokonga, I'd keep him in. I think he's allowed a bad game. He's got that youth about him. And the thing is with him is that we weren't going to expect him to sort of hit the heights straight away, the way that he's playing. Like, he came in as a player for the future, but Jack has been injured, so it's increased the amount of games he had to play, and I think he performed admirably. So we're looking for a big performance from him, but I think this is the measure of the test that we're at the moment. Do you know what I mean? If Lokonga could perform in this game after having a bad game, you just put it down to having good character, really.
Yeah, 100%. And well, he's a very talented player. He's shown that already this season. He just had a really poor night on Saturday. But on the other one I mentioned, Bukayo Saka, do you think there's a shout to rest him and maybe bring in a Pepe or a Martinelli?
Short answer, no, because I don't think Martinelli or Pepe give us as much as Saka does. I think when Saka's having a bad game, I can count on him to create something or to make a difference at some point or beat a man. I think he came across probably one of the best fullbacks in the league. Correct me if I'm wrong, it wasn't Robertson, it was Shimika, so it might not have been it might not have been the best fullback in the league. But the system that Liverpool play in is one that denies Saka the space and time to flourish as it would be Newcastle. So against Newcastle, I trust him to sort of deliver the goods. Whereas Pepe and Martinelli, you can't say that about them. And that's the honest truth. You can't rely on them against Newcastle to come in and make an impact. Maybe they could, but I think my money would be on Saka starting and making a difference.
Sure. Nice one. We'll crack on with this now. We'll go into our personal predicted lineup. Well, let's say our lineup for this game. So who we both believe should be starting for this game. Probably won't be if we're doing it off what we believe, but there again, we'll wait and see. But starting off in goal, I mean, Aaron Ramsdale, right?
Oh, of course. I don't think there's an Arsenal fan that would even vouch for Leno as good of a servant Leno's been, but Ramsdale has to be in there. He played well. If it weren't for him, it probably would have been 8-0 at Anfield. So yeah. Ramsdale, definitely.
I think the rest of the back four is pretty set when you've got Tomiyasu, Ben White, and Gabriel. But the left back role, you did mention it there. Are we in agreement that we bring Kieran Tierney back in for this game?
Yeah, let's see what he's got. I want to see Tierney back and firing. I reckon Tavares is giving him the fright of his life in terms of how well he's performed before Anfield. So bring Tierney in. Hopefully he gets back to speed, and then I feel like I'd prefer him over Tavares for the next few games after Newcastle. So
is he your first choice, right? Left back, sorry. Would you say Tierney's your first choice left back?
I'd say so. I reckon his performance did tail off at the start of the season. I understand he's played a lot of games and he hasn't always been the best in terms of durability. But if he comes back in having been a bit arrested and having had a good international break in Scotland, I reckon his spirits are high. So I reckon I'll bring him back in, and I really want to have that thrust on the left-hand side that he provides. 100%.
I'm also keen to see Tierney back and would bring him back for this game. Midfield pivot. You've got Thomas Partey, you've got Ainsley Maitland-Niles, who was man of the match against Watford, and you've got Sambi Lokonga, Albert Sambi Lokonga, sorry. You mentioned about potentially keeping Lokonga in for this game. Do you still think that's the right kind of decision?
I think for this game, I want to keep him in, but I feel like Arteta will be in his ear, and Lokonga's a smart man. He will know that. And despite his youth, that you can't afford many sort of lackluster performances. So I reckon, again, I really want to see his character in that game. I want to see him really pick up the ball in midfield and look to really create things and make things happen. Look to have a difference-making performance. And I reckon he is capable of it. I reckon I saw him in the Villa game. I liked what I saw. And I reckon Newcastle, no disrespect to them, but they are a bit lower down the table than Villa in terms of quality. So I reckon I back Lokonga to flourish. But Ainsley's definitely knocking at the door. And I reckon all it takes is one bad performance from Lokonga. Ainsley's in. And I'd back Ainsley in midfield at Old Trafford if the time comes, if Lokonga doesn't perform and Ainsley has to go in. I back him. I back Ainsley. So Lokonga for the short while, but let's see how he does on Saturday and go from there, really.
Ainsley's got a big role to play this season as well with AFCON coming up. Obviously, Thomas Partey will go away to represent Ghana, and then we'll be left with Lokonga, Maitland-Niles, and then obviously Xhaka, injury dependent. We'll see when he comes back. But for you, for this game, sorry, would you say Partey and Lokonga, sorry?
Yes.
Sure. Okay. And then the right-hand side, Bukayo Saka?
Yep. Starboy. Do you know what I mean? Like, again, anyone's allowed a bad game, and at Anfield, at 20 years old, if I'm correct, like it's gonna startle anyone. Do you know what I mean? We weren't exactly our fluid best. We didn't create many chances on last Saturday, but I reckon this Saturday is the game for him to come back and sort of be the star of the show again. So yeah, Bukayo all the way. And
on the other wing, our other star boy, Emil Smith-Rowe.
Yeah. Again, it's funny with Smith-Rowe because I reckon he didn't again have the best game, but we didn't have the most joint up attack at Anfield, and it feels weird about Smith-Rowe because I remember reading an interview about how he does get nervous before games, and I reckon it must have been a sight to sort of have a full Anfield rocking. Like,
I thought that as well.
Yeah. So it must have sort of knocked him off his stride a bit. But again, it's a learning curve for these youngsters. So
100%.
I'm happy to see Smith-Rowe back in and ready to have the chance to go again.
Now in the number 10 role, obviously we've had Lacazette come into there for the last kind of few games. Would you keep Lacazette in there, or do you think Martin Odegaard's done enough in his cameos to deserve that starting role for Newcastle?
If I'm being honest, I don't think Odegaard's done enough in the cameos, but I reckon if there's an opposition that you really want him to get a lot of the ball and to create opportunities and to get the team ticking, this is the game.
Yeah.
Because I reckon there are times like Arsenal where Partey and Lokonga don't receive enough of the ball midfield, and we do rely on the flanks too much to create opportunities. And when you have Tavares and Smith Rowe and Saka, you can get away with it to some degree. But I reckon there are going to be times where you need to have that ball midfield and you need to have someone that you know could sort of rely on to keep it. I think Lacazette's good into the hold-up play and the link-up play. But in terms of getting a person that could thread balls in behind the midfield and really is competent and maybe controlling the tempo of the game, if Odegaard needs to have a game to perform for us to trust him in the long term, this is the game. I'm not trying to say that if he doesn't perform, he's not going to be an Arsenal player at all. It doesn't work like that. But I reckon this is a good game to stick him in and see what he's about, really.
Sure. No, 100%. I agree. And a team like Newcastle, you'd hope there'd be lots of chances and opportunities for him to create for our forwards. And in the striker role, again, it kind of speaks for itself, does it? I mean, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang.
Yep, captain. Again, big money striker in terms of the money he's getting at the club. I think I've had a lot of people say he didn't have the best game at Anfield, and I agree, but I reckon there's not much more he could have done. I don't know if you feel that way. What more could you feel that he could have done?
You say the whole team had a bad game, to be honest. I mean, in the second half, everyone just capitulated.
Yeah, the lack of service he got. I'm not saying that he's faultless, but I feel like in a game against Newcastle, at the bottom of the table at home, you'd back him to be there and back him to score. Really, like I think we lack a depth in that position, which is why there's a lack of an obvious replacement for Aubameyang. But for the time being, I'd put him in there and I'd back him to score because he's had a good record at home this season. So let's hope he continues that. It's the games afterwards that I'm really going to be looking at and examining whether he can make the difference in those games. But the Newcastle game, I don't dispute that he can come up with a goal or two.
So what you were saying is this week, Fantasy Premier League team, Aubameyang's in there, triple captain.
I didn't say triple captain. I said that he should start in the game. What happens, I don't know. But you can't hold me responsible for that one.
Okay. Just a little bit on this Newcastle side. Obviously, Eddie Howe's come in. We haven't had to been able to see him on the touchline yet, and I believe he's waiting touch and go from a doctor's call as to if he'll be at the ground on Saturday. But what did you make of the appointment for Newcastle?
I reckon if you're going to get a manager that's sort of astute at relegation battles and sort of at the lower half of the table, Eddie Howe's your man. But I think one thing that gets overlooked, and a mate of mine is a Palace fan, he told me this, is like Eddie Howe's defensive record at Bournemouth was quite bad, really. Like they're very porous and they're letting a lot of goals, and they got away with it because of the strength of their attack. Yeah. And towards the end, it caught up with him. And I reckon with Newcastle, especially if you judge that Brentford game where they conceded 3 goals, I don't think they're going to be defensive resolute. I genuinely fear for Newcastle. I haven't got a win. I think, 12 games into the season. So they're going to have to sort of shoot their way out of trouble. And I reckon Callum Wilson's goals won't be enough, as sad as it is to say. So I don't know whether they're going to bring all their attacking Arsenal against, no pun intended, against us on Saturday. But I reckon there are definitely a few goals for the opposition against Newcastle. And I think that's what we've got to exploit. And the way our defence has been this season, I back us to do well against Newcastle. But long term, I don't know if Eddie Howe is the right man for that job. I reckon he's a good manager. And he might be a good manager for if they have to rebuild in the Championship. Yeah. But I don't think they've got enough to get out of trouble this season. But I could be wrong. Famous last words.
Okay, now big call. We'll make sure we clip that and put that wherever it needs to end up at the end of the season. Joel, we're just going to finish with a few score predictions. You said there could be goals in this game. How many goals do you reckon there'll be?
I think 2-0 Arsenal.
2-0?
Yeah, it will be a bit tasty at points, but I reckon we'll do enough to get the job done. What about yourself?
I'm going to go 3-0. I agree with you. I think there could be goals in this game. Massive thank you for joining me today on the podcast. Guys, make sure to keep an eye out. We will have a Newcastle preview breakdown with Newcastle editor Harry Roy as well. So make sure to keep an eye out for that one. Drop a like on the video. Joel's links will be down in the description. Drop him a follow. Joel, is there anything you want to just quickly plug whilst we're here?
Not for the time being. I think I'd rather those ones where you see it when it's out. So when it's out, just follow my Twitter, Joe Mians, and you'll probably see something good, hopefully.
100%. Cheers for joining me today, mate. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at ArsenalVavel1. Drop us a tweet, what's your score predictions, and we will catch you again very soon. Cheers, guys.
All the best.